Today, we're unpacking a bold statement from French President Emmanuel Macron, who has called for an end to military support for Israel amidst surging pro-Palestinian protests across Europe. In a recent interview with France Inter, Macron urged for a halt to arms shipments and highlighted the urgent need for a political solution to the ongoing Gaza conflict. But here's the kicker. While France has already stopped its arms transfers to Israel, the U.S. continues its massive €3.4 billion military aid package. What does this mean for the future of international relations, and how will it impact the protests sweeping through European cities? Stay tuned as we break it all down. It's intriguing to see Macron taking a firm stance here, especially when contrasting France's approach with that of the U.S. This divergence could impact the broader international dynamics surrounding the conflict. Also, it's noteworthy that Macron is emphasizing a political solution. Given the complexity of the issue, it's clear that military action alone won't resolve the tensions. Macron's comments come as large-scale demonstrations in support of Palestinians continue to sweep through major European cities, including Paris, Rome, Brussels, London, and Athens. These protests, ongoing since the conflict in Gaza reignited nearly a year ago, have gained traction with the approaching anniversary of the October 7, 2023 Hamas attack on Israel. Many of the protesters are demanding a ceasefire and calling for an end to the conflicts in Gaza and Lebanon. The timing of these protests is significant. The one-year anniversary of the Hamas attack adds a layer of urgency and emotion to these demonstrations. It seems that, despite the time that has passed, the tensions remain just as high. It's also not surprising that these protests are taking place in multiple major cities, as this is a global issue with deep emotional and political ties. In London, thousands of demonstrators gathered in Russell Square, with tensions flaring as police arrested two individuals after clashes between officers and activists. The march was aimed at institutions like Barclays Bank and the British Museum, which organizers accuse of being complicit in Israel's actions. In Rome, despite a ban by local authorities citing security concerns, protests went ahead, with demonstrators chanting for the liberation of Palestine and Lebanon. Similar gatherings were held in the Philippines, where protesters near the U.S. Embassy were blocked from approaching the compound by police. It's not uncommon for protests on such a controversial topic to result in clashes with police. The targeting of institutions like Barclays and the British Museum shows how the protests are not just about state actors, but also how certain organizations are perceived to be involved or complicit. It's always a tricky balance between allowing freedom of expression and maintaining public order during such demonstrations. The growing protests have sparked security concerns in several European nations, with authorities expressing fears over the potential for violence and terrorist activity. In Italy, authorities noted that the timing of the protests in Rome could be seen as celebrating the Hamas attack of October 7th. Italy's Interior Minister, Matteo Piantedosi, highlighted that Europe remains on high alert as the anniversary approaches, warning of possible terrorist threats. Similarly, in Berlin, a protest planned for Brandenburg Gate has raised concerns about anti-Semitic violence and the ability of security forces to control large gatherings. The fear of protests escalating into violence is a legitimate concern, especially considering the charged atmosphere around the conflict. The Italian government's caution about the timing is understandable. It's an example of how even the commemoration of tragic events can stir up different sentiments, leading to possible clashes. European countries seem to be bracing for the worst as tensions continue to rise. In France, Interior Minister Bruno Retailleau warned regional officials of the heightened risk of terrorist activity and the potential for escalating violence during the protests. These concerns come as the world marks 1 year since Hamas launched its attack on Israel, an event that resulted in the deaths of 1,200 Israelis, the taking of hostages, and the intensification of a conflict that has left Gaza devastated. According to the Gaza Health Ministry, over 41,000 Palestinians have since lost their lives, with ongoing hostilities as Israel continues to face threats from Hezbollah, Iran, and other regional actors. The numbers are staggering, both in terms of human loss and the continuing conflict. The death toll on both sides underscores the deep-rooted nature of this issue. The warnings from French authorities show just how concerned European governments are about the potential for further escalation, not just in the Middle East, but within their own borders. It's clear that the conflict has far-reaching effects, extending well beyond Gaza and Israel.